Hi, I'm Sophia Randolph, and as Matt said, I studied education because it's something I'm very interested in and interested in pursuing beyond high school and potentially as a profession. For the first semester this year, I was a teacher's assistant in Fact and Fiction, which is a combined English and history course. That was a really great experience to kind of set the tone for what I was hoping to study, because it got me some in-classroom experience, being around great teachers, great students, and getting some opportunities to teach myself. One day I got to school and opened my computer and there's this email from Mr. Bull saying, "You're on your own today." And usually there are two teachers, so sometimes it's just me and one of the teachers, but they were both absent and kind of threw me out there. And since it wasn't a total disaster, it was a little bit of success, which was really nice. So this semester in an independent project, I did a lot of reading and lecture watching and talking to people, trying to get together my thoughts on where education is right now, where it needs to go, and what I can do throughout that process. The public education system, which we are a part of, has been around for over a century, and it has served its purpose with varying degrees of success over those years. But right now, we've reached a point where a great number of students and adults are realizing that the system we put our youth through is immensely stressful and unable to prepare students for the challenges and uncertainty of the world they will enter upon completing their schooling. As John Taylor Gatto, who is an American teacher, author, and educational activist, says, "I've noticed a fascinating phenomenon in my 30 years of teaching. Schools and schooling are increasingly irrelevant to the great enterprises of the planet. No one believes anymore that scientists are trained in science classes, or politicians in civic classes, or poets in English classes. The truth is that schools don't really teach anything except how to obey orders. This is a great mystery to me because thousands of humane, caring people work in schools as teachers and aides and administrators, but the abstract logic of the institution overwhelms their individual contributions." End quote. This abstract logic that Gatto mentions is removing the possibility for true and relevant purpose in school. What we need to do is identify an appropriate ends for education if we hope to succeed in making a better system. Our lack of success right now is coming very clearly from the lack of a communal narrative, or a common understanding of what this ends should be. This narrative will be what provides meaning for those in the system. Since its start, we have never adequately reevaluated the system's purpose. Instead, reform after reform has clouded the meaning and consume of this system that is consuming a vast amount of money and time, especially considering its relative and increasing lack of success. Diane Ravitch, who is a historian of education, a policy analyst of education, and a research professor at NYU, states it clearly when she says, "Our schools will not improve if we continue to focus only on reading and mathematics while ignoring the other studies that are essential elements of a good education. Schools that expect nothing more of their students than mastery of basic skills will not produce graduates who are ready for college or the modern workplace." End quote. As we move away from the current situation, we must remember the task at hand and determine which narrative can guide us in the right direction. Ken Robinson, who is an author, speaker, and international advisor on education, states our task clearly. Our task is to educate our students' whole being so they can face the future. We may not see the future, but they will, and our job is to help them make something of it. How we can make this happen is a much more complicated issue, but recognizing that this is the task and it requires more of us than what our system provides now is a starting point. in trying to figure out how we provide or allow a system that prepares youth for the challenges and uncertainty of the future, we must ask ourselves, what do we want students to get out of the time they spend in school? So part of the research that I did was to look at my own educational experiences and to see what I've gotten out and kind of compare that to what I think I maybe should have gotten out of my time in school. And my education has been amazing in a number of ways, but it has definitely suffered from a lack of direction. And an example of what has muddled the narrative of education is standardized testing. Teachers who began teaching before the mandated tests were instated have to change the direction to teach to these tests and must cast aside their passion and have the potential to lose the inspiration that brought them into teaching. Teachers coming into the system more recently are teaching the test from the first day and often seem to lack the passion and inspiration of veteran teachers, or soon lose it when political aspects of education set in. This is certainly not true of every teacher. There are still teachers who can teach to the test and inspire a love of learning. I would, however, argue that this is the exception and not the rule, and that students being brought up in the system are losing sight of what it is to love and care about something that may lend itself to a career, and that students are not adequately being provided opportunities to explore their interests and find a path they would be content to follow. I've been lucky enough to be in a school district that has allowed me to explore interests and gain experiences in areas not commonly offered in a high school setting. Being at Monument has provided me the opportunity to explore both traditional and non-traditional subject matter. I've been able to select courses with teachers who interest me and take independent studies with faculty members with expertise in that area. For the first year and a half of my high school, I was on a track very similar to every other honors student. Halfway through sophomore year, I started making choices about the path I took. This included switching a few of the classes in my schedule to better reflect my interests and being placed in courses with more engaging teachers. I would hesitate to say that every student at Monument has had this opportunity, because it was only because of my recognition of my fast-fading interest and acting on it that allowed me to take advantage of the resources that allowed me to be best served. Junior year, I took an independent study with Mr. Anand, our assistant principal, with the primary interest of engaging in work surrounding bullying prevention and educational leadership. It was during this time that I began to get a sense of the inner workings of the complex system that is a school. I began to recognize the divide between students in terms of motivation and engagement, or simply having the ability to play the game by the imposed rules. This paired with a genuine interest in teaching and coaching drove me to further explore and define my interest in teaching. It truly surprised me that I was interested in teaching, and it really scared me because I'm at odds with the system I would push myself to continue being a part of. I had a hard time justifying this interest in a logical and sustainable way, but I could not get away from it. This inspired me to look at ways the system could be changed and improved to look like what I recognize as a successful way for students to learn. The independent project presented itself as a way to at once explore my interests and be a part of a project that better fit my idea of a successful education.